Supposing somebody blindfolded you and dropped you out in an aeroplane in a parachute down here, where would you think you were? Somewhere in northern France, perhaps? Or Belgium? Or perhaps even a small town in Germany? Well, you'd be quite wrong. You're in the Scottish border country, a little town called Kelso. There aren't many clues to give that away, I know. There's no skirling of bagpipes, and no the faintest smell of haggis floats down the wind. But it is Scotland, and they're proud of it. Now, there's more than one way of showing civic pride. There are local institutions which reflect places. London has the Times, New York has the Herald Tribune, Moscow has Pravda. Kelso has this. The Kelso Echo, circulation around 5,000 weekly, price 15p. Now, newspapers are notoriously expensive things to run, and rich men have lost their millions trying to organise daft things like bingo competitions, as well as trying to employ expensive staffs. None of these problems exist here on the Kelso Echo. It's in our garage premises in a back street called Jamieson's Entry, of which the nicest thing I can say is that it's neither overheated nor wasteful of space. The proprietor and editor is Mr. John Dawson. The chief reporter is also John Dawson, so are all the other reporters. The chief sub-editor, likewise, is John Dawson. John Dawson is sports editor and religious correspondent. Printing room overseer, compositor, machine minder and sweeper-up, none other than John Dawson. The roles of circulation manager, advertising chief, electrician and tea boy are played, surprise, surprise, by John Dawson. John Dawson is also the receptionist in what in any other paper would be the front office, the guardian of the inner secrets, first line of defence or contact for the general public. How, I wondered, would John Dawson describe his one-man operation?
The Kelso Echo is a newspaper for the community, about the community, and involving the community of Kelso and surrounding district. When I say Kelso and surrounding district, I also mean other border towns when the occasion demands. Hoyt, of course, being the big town in the area now, as far as the district's concerned, and Newtown St Boswell's, where the regional council takes place.
But how does it feel working as a one-man band? Do you like it?
Well, it's nothing really new for any journalist to work as a one-man band because he's out and about most of his working life. And I had 22 years with one newspaper group, so I'd sound grounding in the life of a local newspaper man. And that came, of course, from a man named Ian Fraser of Berwick-upon-Tweed, who I worked under for a long number of years. And then I worked with James Swale, who was head of a local paper. But my life really began in local newspapers in Jedburgh. That was when I was a boy on a job with old cleaning rollers, and I was more or less brought up, you can say, with printer's ink on the end of my fingers, which is still there to this day. I look at newspaper in a way involving local people, and who doesn't like to see his name in the paper, and who doesn't like to laugh when he sees the odd mistake. I mean, mistakes happen in big newspapers and they pass by. You get a local newspaper that comes out with a wrong date line on, or as a man phoned me last week, he said he'd continued the story from page 1 on page 6, and when he turned to page 6 it was actually on page 3. Well, these things happen as a local newspaper, and you know, it involves local people. I mean, you have people who'll come in the door and say to you, well, there last week, did you see that one? Or some lady will come in, I brought the Derby report in, it won't be in again, there's 2 mistakes in it. Well, you've got to tell that lady to realise, you know, in machines that I have, well, you get the F's and the T's and the L's, are all the same width. And, you know, a newspaper itself has got to be alive, and as soon as it goes to press, well, it's dead, they start another newspaper.
In a small town like Kelso, there's not a lot you can easily keep secret. If you want to do that, move to a big city where newspaper coverage is very thin. Here, your slightest movement is liable to be noted down and published for the information or perhaps amusement of everybody else. Now, Kelso's a pretty ancient sort of place. It existed long before newspapers ever did, to a time when news got around by word of mouth, or rather by hoarse grunts and whispers. For most of the news then was pretty bad news. Kelso lay over the border from England, just inside the border, and it was one of the prime targets for the English soldiers. They burnt the abbey here and were far from popular. The old pretender was proclaimed king in the marketplace in Kelso in 1715, and 30 years later his son, Bonnie Prince Charlie, passed through the town in retreat at the end of the Jacobite regime. In Napoleonic times, French prisoners laid the cobbles in the marketplace. Sometime later, somebody is reputed to have grown the biggest onion ever in the world. Well, that's the old news. Let's see how John's getting on with the latest.
Well, I'm looking for a very fine balance of news and some feature stories. I'm very glad to have a story in with a chap named Dave Cuttle, who left Kelso 30 years ago. He's in Australia, having built a racecourse. And I have a nice little story about skating on the River Tweed, where a chap, 69-year-old, Alistair Bateman, his whole family, were out skating on the Tweed. But the thing is, some 30 or 40 other names that come into that story. So that's quite a good one. I've had balanced as well. I've got something about the Church being Cinderella for the next pantomime next Christmas. Looking very well ahead there, of course. And the Lifeboat Guild, they've come in for the first time this week, so I'll be giving them special attention. And of course the big thing in the town is this, the rates have gone sky high. I'm being secretary of the local Traders Association, myself and the province, well, we will look very closely at that one. Of course I'll be unbiased at the end of the day, as I always am on any story of that kind.
But there is a great deal of alarm in Kelso this week, very biased alarm. For the good burgesses of the town have heard that their rates are likely to go up quite alarmingly. Figures of increases of 40% have been rumoured around, and the tradespeople and shopkeepers can see something rather like ruin staring at them. What to do? Well, nothing unites like the threat of losing money, so they do public reaction number one, they call a meeting.
These problems are obviously arising very within the next week, fortnight.
Bags of copy for John Dawson's paper, if nothing else.
Many people will be thinking the same thoughts that you are thinking and wondering how to handle the business of the increased costs which are undoubtedly facing you.
A big meeting comes to Kelso only very occasionally. For most of the time, John Dawson relies on personal contact for his news, whatever news is.
People write about people, they speak about people. That's news to me. Recording the local event here in Kelso on the Scottish borders. If I can do that before I die, I'll die a happy man.
But he'll die a happier man if the adverts come in as well.
Richard, change your advert.
Oh yes, John.
We got it there.
Have to write it out.
Okay. Will I come back in again?
Yes.
You can write to the door and get a little telephone to yours.
Very good.
Right. You got the rotary tomorrow, it'll be away.
It'll be a wee good away today at
away
about
today.
1 o'clock. Yeah, get the train from Berwick.
I missed you just sit down.
Yeah. He was at the rotary last night.
In a town like Kelso, news can be about fish in the River Tweed, about a dog run over, about your granny falling downstairs, about so-and-so going on holiday to Spain. As if anyone with sense would want to leave a place like this.
Yeah, that was the AGM we held.
Yeah.
But we'll have another one next week to discuss the meeting that was previously held, you know.
Well, you'll keep in touch with the paper now.
Oh yes,
Thanks.
we'll be giving you an article this Friday.
Many thanks.
Okay.
You don't have for me at all.
Not that I can think of.
How-
I'll come
how-
in tomorrow morning.
Come into, well, I'll be printing through the night because of this very busy weekend.
Come in later this afternoon.
We come in this afternoon and see what's on the go. Hello, everyone. There's the bookcase. Well, Cool.
Time moves leisurely in a town like Kelso. Modes of transport could be elegantly eccentric. This Rolls contains the Scottish equivalent of the Burgomaster, Town Provost Sandy Blair.
Out and across the River Tweed.
Famous for its salmon.
That is right. We have people come from all over the world to fish in the Tweed. And
Bring a lot of money with them, I suppose.
that is right. Just leave a lot of money in the town. We look forward to them coming, not only their money, but a great friendship with them. They enjoy their stay in Kelso.
What sort of a spirit does the town have? Is it a happy place, a prosperous place?
It's a happy place, prosperous. I would say yes. Yes, it is prosperous.
And now we're coming up to that. This is the actual centre, eh?
This is the old, what we call Bridge Street. Coming into Bridge Street, into the Market Square of Kelso, Kelso Square.
Provost Sandy Blair keeps the jewellers and watchmen's shop on the main square. It's a prosperous little business, now into its third generation of Blairs. And while Sandy Blair goes to think the thoughts of a good provost, John Dawson moves inexorably on his round. John Dawson's a man of many parts, not just band parts either, though he'll play a dozen instruments, not just newspaperman. He's been athlete as well, winner of the Great Powder Hall Sprint in 1952, the fastest time ever up to then. In all, he's won over 600 races all over the world. Racing these days is horse racing, though. Kelso's an important milestone on the way to Cheltenham.
Oh,
Very
good.
better today. It's coming up right.
Yeah.
Very good. Hello. Hello.
Well, the boys are coming up to see John.
Tonight.
Aye.
You got my car, like?
Yeah.
Where he stayed at the Black Swan?
Yeah.
Oh, very good, eh?
Aye, all great.
Here, I tell you, you know that Gareth Edwards is here.
Is
He's
he?
fishing on the junction, aye.
Is he?
So we're going to see him tomorrow, aye.
Oh,
We're
good.
on Friday night to the game.
Aye.
Very, very good.
The distances were 4 lengths and 3 lengths. 4 lengths and 3 lengths.
Okay. Can I take your Well, thank you, Jimmy. Just over here. Hiya, you all right?
Come in, come in. Good morning, John.
Morning, Provost. Well, have you anything for me today for the Echo?
Yes, I've had a letter from the mayor of Kelso in Washington
Oh, that's encouraging.
about...
Meanwhile, back at the provost's study, Sandy Blair is an important contact for John Dawson, appearing in most Echo stories except the ones about run-over dogs.
And what about Ian Hastie in Wellington, New Zealand? Have you heard from him lately?
Yes, I believe he's coming back to Kelso on a visit.
John Dawson doesn't bother a lot with typing out his stories as most reporters do. He rolls reporter and printer into one and types his copy straight onto the machine that sets the type. Everything goes into lead: births, deaths, dogs and grannies.
I would say the hard part of the job is finding the fellows to sleep on the Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it's easy and I wouldn't say it's hard. And I wouldn't like any people who are watching this to say to themselves, well, running a newspaper is easy. I mean, I've spent a lifetime at it, but I'm sure there must be some budding young chap somewhere about in the country who one way or another like to run a newspaper. There are many people who would like to run a newspaper, but it's hard. You've got to know what you're doing.
Who knows, perhaps the budding young chap is here in the local playgroup. At the moment, he's just part of a paragraph in this week's Kelso Echo. Young and old go in, kids' playgroups, old folks' bowling matches too. The Kelso Echo must be the only newspaper on earth which has no telephone. This might worry something like the Financial Times, but it doesn't seem to worry John Dawson.
That's one way we can keep our costs down. I'm a believer in going out and about amongst the people, and let the people come to me and I go to the people. The telephone to me, I mean, I'm speaking of a small community, a big newspaper can't do without a telephone. I mean, in actual premises. But you can imagine me jumping up and down all day here to answer the telephone. I mean, I've got a lot of people come in here by the big main door. So, no, I must admit here, one of the reasons, and I think the telecommunications did me a favour, they wanted something like £80 to £100 to transfer the telephone across from one side of the seat to the other. Well, I think I did the right thing there to put my foot down and not taking the telephone into the place. When you have a local paper, it is a local paper for the local community. When one works for the community, well, everybody in the community plays his part. I mean, in this paper, I don't go for correspondence, I go for what you call deputy editors. I have 63 deputy editors, all unpaid.
Which must be even more than the Daily Telegraph. But the Echo's deputy editors come in a variety of shapes, sizes and occupations and get up to the most unlikely things in their spare time.
Oh, flower of Scotland, when will we see?
Frankie Mallon is a foundry worker who likes to sing in pubs for charity with his country and western group Tweedale Country.
Here we hill and glen and stood against him. Proud Edward's army and sent him homeward.
But even while he sings, his deputy unpaid mind is on something entirely different. Rugby union is not just an interest in the Scottish borders, it's a way of life, an obsession. Kelso's currently top of the league and dear to the heart of Frankie Mallon, who writes about them every week in the Kelso Echo.
I cover the games mostly myself, from international level right down to club level. But then we have Frank Mallon, who writes a piece every week. He's written in the paper every week since we came into being. So, I mean, he's more or less the local rugby man in that sense. He gives an opinion, an unbiased opinion.
An unbiased opinion?
Oh yes, unbiased opinion. I mean, he can be very, very biased at times. I mean, even the top name comes to Kelso. It's nothing wrong for Frank Mallon to say that he didn't think he played very well, and the whole country thinks he's a great player. That's the kind of thing, but he's not afraid to give his opinion.
Well, at the present time, there's only two really first-class teams in Scotland. That's Kelso and Irons High. That's it. The rest are falling behind.
When you write in the paper that some of it's not exactly personal, but it's getting that way, isn't it? How do you get any flack from this at all? Do you get any comeback? I mean, do people argue with you after you've written it?
Not from the pub. Not from the pub. I've had some flack outside, but not from the pub.
Like what? What happens?
Oh, just somebody put a letter from my house door, no name or address on it, and it was pretty scared about some of the Kelso players, which I took a wee bit hump at. Didn't like it very much at all.
Well, I get it every week. Again, I take it as part and parcel of the newspaper game. Then I know he's been read. I mean, if I miss Frankie Mallon out the paper, and it has happened once, and that was not because we had too much coffee, because something's happened to the machine. I've had to fill it up or to go bad weather. But Frank Mallon, no, I'm not long getting been told about it if Frank managed to have something from the paper.
Take it. Within, flanker.
This week's a special week in the rugby calendar. Scotland's at home the weekend to Wales, and half of the South Wales valleys seem to have turned up at Kelso en route to Murrayfield. There's no bother, they've been invading Kelso for years, and Kelso's been invading them on the away matches. So this week is daffodil time on the borders.
What a jig. How you Thomas? Something off. Yeah, there's a pin. The daffodils are for nothing, but the pins are a folded. Coming in the wallies, we are wallies. Who's coming yet? Gareth Edwards? Me?
Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the weekly meeting of the Rotary Club of Kelso. It's my pleasure to welcome today John Dolan, a past president of the Rotary Club of Port Talbot. We hope he has a very happy weekend, but not necessarily a very successful one.
No one knows yet that Wales is going to win. For now, it's bedtime for the Kelso Echo. That's what printers say when it's all ready to print. The paper's going to bed. Every little happening in the town the past week, the rates protest, the old folks bowling, the school brass band, the dead dogs, is now set in lead, hammered down and screwed home ready to print from. If it's not there now in the page, it probably hasn't happened. And there, the latest echo of Kelso, warts and all, ready to be poured over every last word, and ready to be got at too.
If people didn't criticise the paper, well, it wouldn't be a local paper. And if they didn't criticise the paper, I go back to what my old boss and mentor, Mr. Ian Fraser, said about it. There's something wrong with a local paper. If people are not, you can say, had a little bit bitch at it. But you always find that the same people who are criticising your paper are there the next week buying it first. I don't think I'll ever make a fortune. I've things round about me here as a newspaper, that at the end of the day, it is a newspaper. It's live, it's there, it gives an opinion. I like to be fair. I've never tried to hurt anyone. And that's one of the successes of this newspaper. But I can say quite honestly, I don't owe anybody. I wouldn't say I haven't had my bothers on different things. To pay my bills right at the start, but I like paying my way.
No fleets of speeding vans whisk the Kelso Echo to the ends of the earth. No planes stand by to wing it all over the globe. Only John Dawson, on foot, by hand. He's been up all night printing it. Now he delivers it personally. And as he spreads the printed word, who knows how much more gossip there'll be to pick up for next week's news. The Kelso Echo may not be a weekly repository of deathless prose. Its typographical elegance may slip at times when there are not enough of the right pieces of type to fit the right places. It may not thunder messages fit to topple governments every week. It certainly doesn't titillate from page 3. But it does set out to do what it tries to do, to reflect a happy, proud little society. And one thing more, it's in rather little danger of being taken over by the international press barons, which is more than you can say for a lot of papers far more famous than the Kelso Echo.